Here's a common scenario at workplace. You get an office job at a company, and after working there for a while, you become a little closer and a little more friendly with maybe one or two of your coworkers, of your office mates. Maybe you share a similar background, maybe you grew up in the same area. Maybe you have a few interests in common, or maybe you have a few specific views and opinions on things that you share that created that special connection between the two of you. And as you become closer and more friendly, you also become tempted to share more and more information with them that you wouldn't share with other people in the office. So you start sharing more about your personal life, your family life, your dating life. Maybe you seek advice from those coworkers about the different problems you have, about the different challenges you're facing. And then, because you enjoy talking to each other, you start exchanging more and more email messages in the office, and you start chatting online, maybe through Slack or any other chatting platform. So you start entertaining each other during the workday to brighten up your day. You start sending funny pictures to each other, different interesting controversial articles, and maybe jokes as well, because you like to laugh, you like to entertain each other, and it's fun. And then one day, out of the blue, you're being suspended and then fired shortly after, or you're just being fired without any warning for allegedly sending an inappropriate email or chat message that violates company policy, violates harassment rules, discrimination rules, and so forth. What happened there? And how can you prevent it? How can you reduce the risk of something like this happening to you? Well, you have to remember that just because something is funny and entertaining to whoever you sent your message to today, it doesn't mean that it might not turn against you the day after. And also, you have to remember that just because something is funny and entertaining to one person doesn't mean that it's not going to be offensive or it's not going to look inappropriate to someone else. Let me give you a couple of common examples. Let's say you sent a joke or two to your coworker and everything is fine, you're laughing, and then you have a conflict with that coworker and he really starts disliking you. He's seeking out an opportunity to hurt you. What's the first thing he's going to do? He's going to pull out your chat messages and he's going to try to use them to make you look as a sexist, as a racist, as a chauvinist, as a homophobe, or whatever else he can do. He's going to take those messages, run to HR or to upper management, show it to them and tell them, look what he's sending to me. Even though he was laughing at it a day later, that doesn't mean anything. What the management sees are your messages. And the management wants to play it safe. They don't want any problems. They don't want any risks. Somebody comes, complains to them. It is much easier for them to take action against you rather than, give it a second thought and say, it's not a big deal. Don't do it again. So that's the first example. The second common example doesn't involve any conflicts. Let's say you exchange messages and everything is fine, and all of a sudden, your IT people in your office decide to review and audit your communication in the office. And then they run into the same messages that you like exchanging with your coworkers and you like to laugh at, and they find them to be highly inappropriate, highly offensive, and highly risky as far as discrimination, harassment, and all that stuff goes. So, again, they will not hesitate to discipline you even for something that seems to be very benign, because again, employers in this day and age like to play it safe. It's much easier to play it safe than say, you know what, it's not a big deal. Now, what should you be aware of and how can you prevent these types of problems? The first thing that you need to do is you need to resist the urge and resist the temptation to share too many personal things with your coworkers. And here's another example of how sharing personal things can get you in trouble. Let's say there's a guy and a girl in the office and they became friends at work. There's no romantic interest. He never hit on her. She never propositioned him. Everything is innocent. Everything is platonic. But because they've gotten closer, the guy started seeking advice from the girl about his dating problems, about maybe his problems with intimacy. So he starts sending her messages that at that moment seemed to be two friends are sharing their problems and seeking advice. But then later, for whatever reason, whether it's coming from her or whether it's coming from the management, all of a sudden these messages are perceived as being sexual harassment, even though the guy did not express any interest in that girl at all. Simply because of what he was writing, because of the subject matter, nobody wants to take risks. The employer says, you know what, it's a problem, it's inappropriate, we don't want this guy in the office. So resist the urge to share those type of personal things with your coworkers that can be perceived as inappropriate, theoretically inappropriate by anyone. And the second thing that you need to do before you send any type of message, before you send any type of picture and any type of joke, ask yourself, can it potentially be perceived by anyone, not just by the recipients of your messages? Can it be perceived by anyone at all in the office as potentially offensive, racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, whatever else? If you're in doubt, don't send it. If you absolutely have to show that article or a picture or a joke to that coworker that you know is going to love it, go to the break room, show it to them. You don't have to send it to them. And if it's someone who works in an office in another city or elsewhere, then wait. It's not urgent. There is absolutely nothing urgent about that type of stuff. If you follow these two pieces of advice, it will significantly reduce the risk of you getting in trouble, losing a job for those type of silly reasons. Thank you. For those type